Crafting a compelling personal brand not only helps you rise above the noise, but also builds trust and significantly increases your earning potential.
And so I think it's really speaking on your truths rather than claiming to know the truth.
How do I stand out in a crowded marketplace? You stack these 5 questions, these personal brand elements, and you dial these in, you're different.
Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
So in this video, you'll gain insights from seasoned experts who've each built million-dollar empires by harnessing the true power of personal branding. Hey, what's up? Sean Cannell here, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. And in this episode of the Think Media podcast, we're talking about personal branding and bringing you some of the best advice from our previous episodes of the podcast, plus some new unreleased material that's going to give you actionable insights for building your personal brand. Now, today's episode is brought to you by 21videotips.com, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Let's dive into the tips.
Switching from how to how I. So how to build a massive social media following to how I built the following that I have. Feel a difference? It's really small, but really big in terms of how people interpret your message. You're pulling back and saying like, hey, like, I hope this serves you in some way. Like, this is like me opening the kimono. This is stuff that's working right now for me. Whereas the other way, you're at the pulpit commanding, giving demands and commanding people. And I just don't think people like that. I mean, how many people, their entire Instagram feed is people shaking their finger at you, right? It sucks. I hate it, right? And so I think it's really speaking on your truths rather than claiming to know the truth. Who here makes the content because they want to become famous and feel good about themselves? Ooh. Or who here is making stuff because they want it to be received and help the audience, right? And so the thing is you have to feed them and not you. And I think if you can make that shift, I think, in my opinion, it will be more effective.
You got to figure out that special thing, and that what's cool is God has woven into your DNA something unique, something that's just a little bit different, your secret superpower. When I really started to get clear on that, my YouTube results skyrocketed. And for me, that was, I posted this video after experimenting and struggling and posting all kinds of different videos. I started to get clear that, man, I've been doing video for like years. And I started video in my local church. And one of the things I noticed was my competitors were video experts, but they taught really complex. Like they taught over people's heads. And so I started thinking, okay, how do I make complex things simple and make, instead of saying like the bokeh, what? No, how do you get the blurry background in your video, make it blurry behind you and make it look good? Oh yeah, that's what I want in my videos. And boom, I started. And when I started to actually understand the unique pain points of YouTubers, not of filmmakers, not of wedding videographers, but of YouTubers, I started finding a USP. Well, here's a framework of how you can do it. So it's at the intersection of number one, what does the customer want? What does the customer want? What does the viewer want of your content? What do they actually want? What are their desires? Here's another good question for this first one. What does the customer hate? Now, the next one though is what does the competition lack? So I noticed the competition actually lacked YouTube specific pain points. To this day, I'll search like what's the best camera and I'll find these ranked lists and I'll see cameras that are recommended that don't have selfie screens. If you're a solo creator, that is not a good camera recommendation for YouTube content. If it doesn't have good autofocus. Like you don't want to be out there trying to figure out what the autofocus is. Like these seem obvious, yet they'll still make it into people's lists. Those people are wrong. That's just the way? They're like, they don't understand. And why would there be a dissonance? And how did I carve out an advantage? A deep understanding of how I could be different than the competition because they're not connecting with the YouTube specific knowledge. Like selfie screen, autofocus. But then also, what do you do well? So you also might be saying, another one on the competition is, what is the competition strong at? So what is the competition, like if every battle is won before it's even fought, then I might not even go down one direction. I would avoid a lot of battles. In fact, this is another Sun Tzu quote, avoid unwinnable battles. Pick winnable battles. Now you're like, it's overwhelming. I get it. But the key is like, if you have no prayer of winning, it's like if you start a new soft drink, you're not going to be like, you know what my goal is? I'm taking Coca-Cola down. You know what it is? Like, bro, you're confident. And I know we said we really like confidence here at Grow a Video, but there's no chance, bro. Like, you're not taking Coca-Cola down. That'd be an unwinnable battle. But yet, niche soft drink companies pop up all the time. You're watching the Super Bowl. Is it called Poppy? Is it called Poopy? What's the little drink? The new house, healthy, it's less sugar, it's soda redefined. It's an entirely different thing. My wife actually loves like Coca-Cola. She doesn't think Poppy is soda. She's like, what even is this? And I'm more, amen. Someone's over there like, where's the world going? I mean, this is really, but that's a winnable battle because they're creating a new category. So you think about, okay, what is the competition strong that's not worth competing with? What's the competition lack? What are their strengths? And then what do you do well? So then what are some things that you can lean on? I leaned on my experience in that I started YouTube originally with a channel for my church in 2007. I'd been in YouTube. I met some people. Happenstance, met this guy named Benji at the YMCA and started getting more exposure. And so I just had been in this YouTube world, so I niched down into that particular area, and it's at the intersection of these three that is your USP. Now, this is probably worth taking a picture of or drawing out on your notes, and the next slide is definitely worth taking a picture of because it's going to go fast and it's going to be way too overwhelming, and I want you guys talking in just a second here. But let's layer another thing on top of this, and this is your personal brand USP. So this last one, I'm going to go back, and then we'll go back. So your business should figure out your business's positioning, and of course, you could apply these things to your personal brand. But for a lot of us, we're starting individual YouTube channels, or we're starting individual brands on video, and so we're building personal brands. What are the makeup of a personal brand? There are these different elements like your talents and your values and your beliefs and your passions and your personality and your unique qualities and your skills and your background and all of this. And obviously, we can't unpack all of this. This is the kind of stuff and the kind of work we do in our program and something I'll be telling you about tomorrow. But ultimately, screenshot this because now, how do I stand out in a crowded marketplace? You stack these 5 questions, these personal brand elements, and you dial these in, you're different.
If I'm ready to reveal myself and say, you know what, I'm ready to like have a real conversation with people. What I would do is show up just like this, wherever we are, and say, okay, guys, I've realized something. I've been showing up a certain way, and I have to confess to you, I'm not wearing pants. They stand up and they're wearing shorts. And let me take the camera. I'm just going to turn it the other way. So on this side of the camera, it looks like this. On the other side, unmade bed. There's a bowl of cereal, a dirty pot. So I'm just going to show you like really this is what it's about. I show up like this because I want you to see me as a professional. But moving forward, I'm going to start revealing more of myself. I hope you're along for the journey. And if this turns you off, I appreciate the time you spent with me. And if you want to see more, let me know in the comments. And this is what I'm going to do because it's for me and it's not necessary for you. And here's the weird thing. It's my prediction. If you do it in a genuine way, maybe you get a little bit of coaching, then people are going to really say, thank God, finally somebody's doing it. And it's going to go against the grain. And that will be the thing that breaks through. And that's really what you want anyways. It's like you're inviting people quite literally into your home so that you can have a conversation with them. And they're going to feel so much more connected on a heart level, not on a brain level to you. That's going to be really meaningful.
Most people have this big glaring sign above their head before they can even turn on the volume of their brain, which is, why should I listen to you? And so I tend to lead with proof. Prove that you know what you're talking about. You give people a reason to believe you. The promise is to tell them what they're going to get or learn from the video. And the plan sets the expectations of what will happen next.
You have to become a student of the game. So if you want to become a great director, you need to read screenplays, you need to watch films. And what people do is they borrow a little bit and they think they got it. My children are like this. When I try to explain them how to do something, they want to take the shortcut. They just want to skip all over the steps and just like, no, I got it, Dad. And then when they produce something, they're like, yeah, see, that didn't work because you didn't follow the directions. And people are like this. We think we're smarter than we really are. It takes a lot of patience, dedication, and believe it or not, intelligence to do really great forgeries. Some of the great forgers are like very high IQ people. They pay attention to crazy amounts of detail. So you need to do that for a period of time so that you can get a feel for the words get a feel for how to frame a shot or how to light a scene before you can go out and do your thing. I have this feeling, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that movies and books are messages from the past to our future selves so that we can learn from them to save ourselves from a lot of pain. But many of us are so stubborn, our eyes are not fully open. And so when these messages come to us on screen, we laugh, we cry, and we move on with our life, and we forget there's a powerful lesson here.
I suck at marriage advice. I suck at, giving happiness advice. I suck at whatever, but I'm really good at making high returns in the stock market. How much more believable is that than I make really good returns in the stock market, and I'm really good at marriage, and and. When you admit your deficits, whatever comes after the admission of guilt or the admission of deficiency is believed more. So if I say, hey, I really suck at a lot of things, but you're going to believe whatever I say right here, that's a sentence structure for persuasion. And you can use that in all of the content that you have forever. It's also great for negotiating. And so, anyways, I say all this to say, it's the path that lies behind you, not the path that lies in front of you, that will give you the certainty that you want to gain the influence you desire. And so my evolution for me was fitness first, and I just talked about this is what's worked for me. People are like, Alex, how do you eat Twizzlers and cookies all day and have a six-pack? And I'm like, A, genetics. B, I live at a gym. And C, I eat this way, right? And people are like, oh, so I can have cookies too and have a six-pack. And I was like, yes. And that was relevant for me. Some people are like super vegan superstars. Awesome. And they're going to talk about what's relevant for them. And the people who follow will be like, I vibe with that. Cool, right? And so I'm not going to be the best nutrition expert in the world, but in terms of like my little fiefdom, I can rule that, right? And then I moved up because I started doing well there, and people started asking me, hey, how are you growing your gym? I was like, well, this is how I grew my gym. They were like, well, what about business in general? I'm like, I don't know. I've never ran an e-commerce business. I don't know about manufacturing. I don't know about software. I don't know about any of that stuff. But I know how to grow a gym. So I only talked about that. And the amount of people that was relevant for, this many. But for that audience, everything, right? I mean, and just for context here, there are riches and niches. Like, that company made a lot of money. Just saying. Like, it made a lot of money, and it didn't make me famous at all. And so again, the question is, do you want to be rich? Do you want to be famous? Are you trying to serve you? Are you trying to serve the audience?
You make a living from the problem you solve, but you make a life from the passion that you chase.
That's good. Really good.
Like, if you make money and you just make money, eventually you're burnt out. That's a great place to start because you got to pay the bills. Like, you need money to be able to do stuff.
Yep.
But then ultimately you got to chase the passion. And it's not just like this fires me up, but also what pisses you off? Mm-hmm. What breaks your heart? Like, what makes you cry? What makes you look at it in the world and you go, I'm not okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm not comfortable with that. I won't accept that. We believe that is God's divine design of your humanity, that what breaks your heart for a reason, because you were created to do something about that problem. And your real magic will come from living in the passion, but you have to earn your right to get there first.
That was one of my top things ever said on the show.
So when you look at what you're good at, what you love, what pays well and what the world needs, you find this really interesting cross-section. Now, the more dimensions you add, the harder this thing becomes, right? 2 dimensions, easy to find the overlap. So in the Venn diagram, there's 4 circles. Like, the question of what the world needs is really important. And speaking for myself here, when I made commercials for a living, I got paid a lot of money. So I was good at it, and it paid really well. But didn't really feel do I love doing this? Do I love clients telling me, like, make it bigger, or can we try 4 more versions of the same thing? No, not really. Put that aside. So I go to teach, something I really love and I'm also good at, but they don't pay jack for that. So I can have a full or filled, have a sense of fulfillment, but I'm going to be broke doing this. And so I struggle with these 2 worlds. I thought you quite literally had to leave one world, the business world, to go in to join the academic world, and the 2 cannot intersect. So a friend of mine, and I hope I'm going to answer your question, a friend of mine is like, hey, Chris, I know you're really passionate about education. Why don't we just make content on YouTube and then build a knowledge product, and that way you can teach and do it sustainably, and we can do this. I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. That seems crazy. Well, we know how that turned out because we're like 2,000 videos in, so many subscribers later. I found that intersection. So the world needs high quality education from people who've been there and done it before and that are passionate, that have a skill for teaching and entrepreneurship and know how to make videos and do storytelling. I found that intersection. And so I think I found my reason for being. And it's going to be different for each person.
Here's the whole secret to personal branding in one sentence. And this is not a Rory Vaden quote. I wish it was. Okay. But there was a guy named Larry Winget who told me this early in my career. And Larry said, the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
Very good.
Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. And when you go look at someone's social media profile and you go, I don't know what this person does, they haven't clarified their uniqueness. They're not clear about the role they play in the world. And this ties more to just personal brand. It's not social media and it's not logos and colors and graphics. It's your purpose, right? It's being clear about how can I serve? How can I be of value? So many people are trying to find their purpose. And I think the wrong question is, don't ask, what's my purpose? That's the wrong question to ask. Instead, ask, who can I serve? How can I be of value? And as you get clear on that, that is your uniqueness. Our lives have meaning in the context of our relationship with others. And there's nothing like the feeling you get when you serve another person.
There's a lady, I forget her name now, but she blew up on TikTok because she's like, these are ugly logos. I'm going to redraw them. And she purposely redraws them really bad. She takes global recognized logos designed by masters and she just punks everyone and does it. And I'm watching these videos. At first I thought it was serious. I'm like, do not change the type. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. And she's getting a reaction from people like me. Like, how dare you touch that logo that you should never touch? And she's doing these and it's blowing up. Now, famous established brands are like, do us next. And they pay her to do that. So the question you should be asking yourself is, how do I compete against Chris? No, how do you do it in the way that feels true to you, based on your gifts, based on your height, your skin color, your tone of voice, whatever it is, your shape, your size, your quirks. Like, if you like doing puppets, why don't you teach me designing logos with puppets? I can't do that. You can freestyle rap, do that, teach it that way. There's room, there's so much room. And I find it quite fascinating that in the society that we live in today, there's so many very narrow niches that turn out to be much bigger than we think. There are people who do dance videos for a very specific type of dance. And there's ones that will do it for kids. So that even in the same genre, they do it a little bit different. Or the ones who wear costumes or ones that wears a mask or who adds laser lights to it. Do it your way.
The people that you trust the most in your life, like if you just made a list, who do you trust the most? It's going to be people that you see most often, and it's going to be the people you know the best. You know what they like to eat. You know where they live. You know their kids' names. You know where they go. You know who their friends are. You know what they do for fun. Like, you know how they spend their time on their weekends. And then the other one is that we trust people that we learn from.
Ooh.
And that becomes the big door opener for the business aspect of all of this, but not to discount the personal sides. Those things really matter.
I say go to the supermarket, preferably one that's highly curated, because they only pick the very best designed products in the world, right? Because they can shop from anywhere. You can go to Whole Foods and Erewhon, what is Adina DeLuca? You can go into one of those shops and like, oh, okay. Go through the aisleway. Find something that speaks to you. Find a package of like a food product that you like. You're like, oh, I like this. I like the typeface. I like the colors. I like the visual language. I like that it's impressionistic painting or it's a geometric Memphis style illustration. I like the patterns. I like the way they write and the words and everything about it I like. Take that thing home. Unpack it, lay it out flat and say, okay, I'm going to like be a master designer now. Pick apart the elements. I wonder what typeface that is. Well, there's an app for that. Just shoot it with your phone and identify the typeface for you. Oh, that is Rockwell. Boom. Okay, great. Rockwell semi-bold. Okay, and are they using all caps or upper lowercase? What parts of this do you like? I like this shade of pink, that shade of green, and a little hint of metallic gold. Understand the ratio of how they're using it. It's just a little bit of gold, lots of pink, and some green. So it's like a 70-25-5 ratio. So when you're designing your thumbnails, think about the 75-25. What kind of illustration style is this? Try to figure that out. Now you can teach yourself design and art. So we're not so good at invention, but we're really good at replicating. When you're in art school, the way that you learn to draw is you literally copy the masters. And as close as you can determines your ability to draft. So you might look at a Da Vinci drawing or a Michelangelo or something, and you're like, okay, how did they interpret the lighting? Oh, Caravaggio did it this way. Okay. You just keep doing that, and then you start to learn. And through the process of absorbing their technique, as a human, you can't help it but to inject some of your thing into it. If you do this enough, eventually it becomes this weird hybrid new thing that becomes your voice. So you'll never be able to replicate it perfectly. That's okay. Get really close, and you'll see your thumbnail game, your design sensibility go really, really high. If you practice this throughout the rest of your life, when you go to a hotel and there's a really good menu, study it. Take a couple of pictures. Do the same thing. When you go to a store or boutique and you pull something out, don't just look at the garment. Look at the hang tag. Look at how they package it.
Question for you. Are you ready to get serious about your social media education so that you can grow your influence and your income faster? If you'd say yes, then I think you're gonna love our video marketing cheat sheet that's available for free at 21videotips.com. We've condensed the best tips and strategies that top entrepreneurs and content creators revealed at our past Think Media events and have put them into one masterclass and free download. Inside of this resource, you're gonna learn from top experts like Alex Hormozi, Patrick Bet-David, Cody Sanchez, Dave Ramsey, Gary Vaynerchuk, Pat Flynn, Chalene Johnson, and more. And you can get it for free at 21videotips.com or just click the link in the description. All right, let's jump back into the video.
People are more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. They're more likely to work for somebody. They're more likely to recommend them. They're more likely to pay a higher price for the same service from someone with a personal brand. They're even more likely, 30% of Americans say they're more likely to date someone who has an established personal brand than someone who doesn't. So it matters, and it matters not because of trends. It matters because of trust. What people don't understand about personal branding is that personal branding is not about social media and number of followers and subscribers and likes and websites and all of this stuff. Those are all sort of tactical expressions. In a more fundamental way, what people need to understand is that personal branding is simply the digitization of reputation. The digitization of reputation. And so reputation is about trust, right? Not just how do I get the most followers? How do I get the most likes? How do I go viral? You can do that with a dancing video. You can do that with gimmicks. But that kind of thing maybe doesn't get you trust, right? In order to build a business, we have to have trust. And what's powerful about the tools of the day, certainly YouTube, podcasting, social media included, is that the tools of the day allow us to automate trust at scale if you're really good at it.
I don't think a personal brand really has a sell-by date. Personal brand business might have a sell-by date, whereas you end up wanting to stop. But that doesn't mean that the work that you've created through that career won't stick around forever as well. I mean, one of my biggest kind of mentors I'd never met was a guy called Zig Ziglar. He was an American author and speaker. And, like I said, never met Zig. I've met 2 or 3 people that have worked with him. I've had the opportunity to interview his son, who now runs Ziglar Enterprises and all the rest of it. But you look at Zig, he passed away years ago, yet his personal brand is still quite synonymous with success and sales, particularly. And there was something about his way of, talking and explaining and motivating that it's very hard not to appreciate that kind of the life that kind of person's living. And that's the reason why, to this day now, his books still sell. People are still talking about him.
Probably pick up the Brand Flip from Marty Neumeier. Let's see what other brand books. I mean, if you just read Brand Flip, you do really well for yourself. It's not 100% like practical steps, but it'll give you a really good high-level overview. Part of brand is being a good storyteller. So I would tell you read How to Tell a Story by the Moth Group and probably Stories That Stick by Kindra Hall. So you understand the concepts of brand. Now you need to tell story. And there's probably a book you need to read about customer experience, user experience, and culture. I would tell you to read Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. The three of them make a pretty deadly triangle.
We sometimes call this the law of the frequency. And if you think about a radio station, okay, you could have two radio stations playing the exact same song at the exact same time, right? So these two stations are playing the exact same song at the same time, but an individual person can only be impacted by one of those radio stations. Why? Because you can only be tuned into one frequency at a time. And so even if you were, verbatim saying something that somebody else said, it still would be powerful because they can only hear it from you, because they only have access to you. Now, so part of your uniqueness on one hand, it's going, you can share the principles that have always been shared because they're only going to hear it from you because they only have access to you. If there's somebody listening who is like, doesn't look anything like Tony Robbins, you go, Tony Robbins could say it 100 times, but because they don't like him, they don't like his voice, they feel like he's too energetic, they go like, he's not my guy, even though he teaches that principle. Meanwhile, you go look at somebody like Brene Brown and you're like, oh, she could say the same thing. And now all of a sudden it connects. It's in a different way. Now, on the surface, that kind of looks like not uniqueness. That looks like it's the same message delivered through a unique messenger. So the messenger themselves is a part of what makes it unique, is you living into more of you. I love that Sally Hogshead talks about how the way that you differentiate yourself is not by looking at what everyone else is doing and asking, how can I be different? It's by leaning into more of who you already are. And that's what I think uniqueness looks like. It's your stories, your anecdotes, your strategies, your techniques. In the part one of this interview, Sean, we shared the focus funnel. The focus funnel is a technique, a strategy, a framework that I created out of my head. The TED Talk went viral. It's about how to multiply time. I wrote a book on it, Procrastinate on Purpose. Well, lots of people have written books about productivity. Lots of people have written books about time management. Lots of people have written books about delegation and systems, right? So it's not that I'm saying something that has never been said before. It's that I'm saying it in a way that only I can say it. And the way that I'm saying it is, if you want the focus funnel, you have to hire Rory Vaden. If you want someone to come teach that, you have to hire Rory Vaden, or you got to hire someone that has licensed that intellectual property from Rory Vaden. You can't get it anywhere else. Why? Because it's out of my freaking head, right? So and that's what matters. And I think as we enter into a world of AI, it includes both the sort of artistic component of this, and then also the practical element of going, you're creating unique frameworks and unique quotes and unique constructs and unique curriculums, not that are teaching things that have never been taught before, but that are being taught through a different set of frameworks and through a different set of lenses, through a different set of stories that is only available from you because it came out of your head.
Once you've discovered exactly what it is that you want to be known for, then it's your job then to figure out who it is that you're going to help. So, you can call it a customer avatar if you want, or whatever. But this is what I do. This is how I can help people. This is the type of people that I'm going to help. But my kind of big thing here is to try and niche that down as much as possible so you can hit the ground running as quickly as possible after you get going, right? So, I could say, well, I'm a health coach and I help people get healthy. That's okay, but it's a little vanilla. There's a whole bunch of health coaches out there, right? But if you say, I'm a health coach that works with men, now I've cut out the female population from my marketing, from my language. That means that obviously I can only work with men, right? Women are not going to be attracted to what I can do for them. But with that being said, the man is a very big niche as well. So I'm a health coach that works with men in their 40s. Now we're niching down even further. I'm a health coach who works with men in their 40s who are recovering from surgery. Now we've got a niche. Now we can start creating content. Now we can, create an opt-in and put it on our website or our landing page and start building an email list. Now we can think about what types of courses or one-on-one consulting work we can do, or maybe there's a one-to-many program I can put together, a cohort-based course or something like that. So I think figuring out what it is that you want to be known for, figuring out who it is you're going to help, and then figuring out how you're going to help them. It's kind of the 3 big starting points.
If you are not growing, if you are not evolving for yourself, you can't expect someone else to grow themselves. You can't expect the people who you're trying to get on YouTube with to grow for themselves. You see, when you have character, that means you're changing. That means you're growing. That means you're evolving. Every single day, I'm asking myself, what am I changing? How am I growing? How am I evolving? How am I maturing? It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me. What am I reading? What am I consuming? What am I listening to? What gossip am I putting in my ear that it's not producing anything for me? See, when we have character, it produces change on the inside. When we produce change on the inside, here's the next C, write this down, number 3, it produces content. Character produces change on the inside. While we are evaluating the inside, it now produces, ooh, I want to talk to them about this. Ooh, God, this is it right here. Ooh, here are the 5 steps of getting out of debt. Ooh, here are the cameras you need to buy. Ooh, this is so good. It produces content because you focus on growing yourself first. Here's why some of us will never go viral. Here's why some of us will never be successful. It's because you're going out here watching everyone else, copying down their notes, regurgitating what they're saying. But here's the thing, that content didn't change you, and you expect it to change them. You want to change them, change you first. When you change you first, it produces content that will change lives. When you can change lives, you go to the next C. I'm giving it to y'all. I told y'all I'm black, but I'm going to get it out of here. I got 11 minutes. So when you have character, character produces change on the inside. Change on the inside is going to produce content. That content is going to produce change out there. Your content, because it started with you, now produces change with your tribe. When you change your tribe, when you have content that changes the people who consumes your content, what happens? They now become in your community. When they get in your community, here's the last C. Your community now produces currency. That's how you monetize your brand. Oftentimes, what we tend to do is we jump straight to, how do I monetize? How do I get 1,000 subscribers? How do I get this? How do I get affiliates? How do I get brand deals? No, the question is to be, how do you grow? The question is to be, where do you start? What is the foundation of you? I wish a person would try and build my house and start with the roof. But isn't it so funny, when they built the house, they go deep down. They get inside the dirt. They put something inside of something that when it rains, it turns into mud. When is the last time you've gotten inside your own dirt, your own mud? Went deep down inside yourself and say, yo, what do I need to change before I try to change them? And when you change them, now they're saying, yo, you got to follow that guy, Anthony O'Neill. He crazy. This man, he crazy. Like, for girl, he's screaming at me through the camera. Girl, did you listen to him? He said he don't spend no more than $50 on a date. Girl, better watch out. Yeah, watch out for me. I think oftentimes, you guys, I'm always asked, Anthony, how did you do it? How did you build this brand? How did you build this business? And it's simple. I tell them, yeah, man, I watch Sean's videos all the time. I go out here and I join these masterminds. I'm learning, I'm growing. That's great. I've done it. But before I did any of that, I had to go back and look at myself. I had to go back and ask myself, Anthony, what's your why? Do you just want a lot of money? Do you just want to look good and have a nice cars to impress the single ladies because you're single? Do you want drama in your life? Or do you want peace? Do you want joy? Do you want freedom?
You absolutely must work on your personal brand statement, that youpreneur personal brand statement. Here's my statement. My personal brand statement is, I help people become the go-to leader in their industry and build future-proof businesses. I want to break this down because it's important to do this. There's two different sections of this statement which are incredibly, incredibly important for you to capture and understand. And it's based on the benefits of working with me as a business coach, as well as the outcome of working with me as well. Let me break it down and show you what I mean. First up, I help people become the go-to leader in their industry. That's a benefit, right? It's a benefit to be seen as the go-to expert, regardless of what niche you're in, right? I say niche and not niche because I know there's probably more American people tuning in than there are British. But hey, niche, potato, patata, chamomile, whatever. I don't know. We could go all day on this. But there's that first section right there to help people become that go-to leader in their industry. That's the benefit. The outcome of me working with them is that I will help you build a future-proof business. It's a business that is not going to be affected or very likely to be affected by any outside forces, because when you build the business of you, it's 100% in your hands all the time. So that's your personal brand statement. I want you to consider that. Start breaking it down right now. A benefit of working with you or buying your products or using your service, whatever it is, and then the actual outcome of doing so as well. The whole point in this is that we market like a magnet, right? Just like at first, what happens is when you utilize a magnet, you're attracting the right people into your ecosystem. You're attracting the right people to your YouTube channel or your podcast feed. But at the exact same time, and this is why it's so incredibly exciting, is that you are repelling away, just like a magnet does. It attracts and repels. You are repelling away the people that should not be in that ecosystem. You know, the types of people that on day 29 of your 30-day money-back guarantee, they're going to email wanting their money back. We don't need those people in our lives. We definitely don't need those people in our business, sucking out our time every day, right? So you attract the best and you repel the rest. Market like a magnet. You see, at first, when you get going, and a lot of you are probably a little bit further along here, but allow me to just recap for those that maybe are at the beginning of this journey that we're all on together. At first, what happens is you'll create content that you think, and that's the key word, hence the highlighted color on the screen, you think your audience will want to see from you. You know what it's like. You hit publish on your first 20, 30 videos, whatever it is, but then something miraculous happens. You find your tribe, and that tribe wants to be around you. That tribe wants to spend time with you. This is a photo of probably about a third of the stage at our Youpreneur Summit event, which takes place in London every November. Unfortunately, not this year, but I'll get over it. But they'll want to be with you. And then what happens is later on, once you've built up those relationships with people, you'll then be able to figure out and realize that you can actually create content that you know, and this is where the power is, that you know your audience wants and needs from you, right? The answers to their questions, solutions to their problems.
I went to your website and I can hire you for $4,999 for 1 hour of coaching. Why are you worth that? And how did you come to that number?
I'm not worth that. Only the buyer determines that worth. That's just the price I set. And I came to that number because I was booked too much at $1,500 an hour, $1,499 an hour, since you were so precise. So my strategy, and it's something I tell people to do, when you get booked too much, you need to raise your rates. I don't believe in making incremental increases. I want to make a seismic jump. I want to move really far forward. Selling my time is not scalable. And it is exhausting for me to talk to someone and give them all of my attention for 1 hour. And I keep thinking, what kind of buyer do I want to attract? So pricing is positioning. So when you set your price at $100,000 an hour, you're going to attract a certain type of person. That kind of person is probably a go-getter, doesn't need tactical steps, needs to hear 1 or 2 things from you that's going to change their game. And the kind of impact that person's going to make by implementing 1 or 2 things that you say is going to be profound. They're playing at a whole different level. I also believe the person who pays a ton of money is so vested in hearing what you have to say, they're so ready to do it that you're not going to get the normal resistance if it was $1.99. Those people are going to say, why would this work? What evidence do you have? Oh, tomorrow's a good day to start. Or why should I listen to you? I'm like, I'm done. I'm bored with you already. I'm going to Mr. Miyagi it.
Would you generally encourage people to raise their prices, entrepreneurs?
Yes, in general, because we don't know what the ceiling is. Your job is to find the ceiling. Your job is to find the ceiling, to set it so far that people keep saying no, and then to acquire the skills to close the skill gap. And that's the game of life. You take the ball, you throw it as far as you can, and then you run after it and you keep throwing it. That's it.
My starting 5 monetization strategies. When you've built, if we go back to the ladder very, very quickly, when you've built the audience, you've amplified everything, you've leveraged your messaging, you've worked with your community to build things out, you're starting to make money, and you're doing well. With all of this involved, it has to start somewhere. And with the starting 5 monetization strategies, this gives you 5 ideas that you can get started with straight away. Not necessarily in rolling out, but at least planning, right? At least planning them. Number 1 is coaching. Now, I will say that this is not necessarily the most scalable approach of monetizing your expertise, because obviously there's only so much one-on-one work we can do. One-on-one coaching, although it's the lowest hanging monetization fruit, it's not scalable because there's only so many hours in the day. And if you go in one-on-one with somebody, you are ultimately trading your time for dollars. Now, as long as you're charging what you're worth, we can live with that for a little while. But sooner or later, you might want to think about going from a one-to-one to a one-to-many approach with coaching or consulting. The second way that we can monetize our expertise is through affiliate marketing. Now, this is kind of almost like an indirect way. And Sean and the team at Think Media are ballers when it comes to this. Like, they do incredibly well with affiliate marketing that they do. This is ultimately where you are given, or you are giving a link to your viewers, to your listeners, to your readers, whatever it might be. And if they click on that link and they buy something, you get a commission for it. Now, I will say there's the right way to do this. And then with most other ways of looking at making money, there's a wrong way of doing this as well. You don't want to just throw one option after another. You don't want to blanket your community with a whole different affiliate marketing deals. That's not going to help you in the long run. What you want to do is look at the 2 or 3 things, 3 or 4 things that you feel your community needs above and beyond everything else to succeed in whatever it is that you're helping them with, and set up good deals with those companies or with those service providers or product providers or whatever it is, that when you introduce new customers to them, you get a little kickback. Everybody's happy. Do it the right way. Don't do it the sleazy way. The third way to be able to monetize yourself is through your own products and services. So for many, many years, I've been seen as an expert in the virtual staffing niche. And I'm still running 2 different businesses within that outsourcing and VA niche to this day. So virtualstafffinder.com, which is our VA recruiting hub, it was a no-brainer that I was to open up a business providing a service where busy entrepreneurs can find good quality Filipino virtual assistants. And to this date, actually, we've done over 8,000 VAs have been hired through our service in the last 10 years of being in business. So again, it's just about finding that gap in that market and going ahead and bridging it between whatever problem and solution there is out there. The fourth way to be able to monetize your expertise is through memberships. Now, it's not necessarily the most passive of income opportunities that are out there. However, it is a great way to be able to bring people together And obviously, the beautiful thing about managing a membership kind of product or service is that you get predictable, reliable income on a regular basis. Whether you're billing people weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever it might be, it's that predictable, reliable income that, let's face it, every business owner loves the idea of having that in their ecosystem. And then lastly, events. As I alluded to not so long ago, for me, the most important thing that I do every year is I bring my people together. And although we're not doing it in person this year, we will figure out a way. In fact, we have figured out a way to be able to do it virtually, which we're letting our community know about a little bit later on in early October. But the fact of the matter is, events bring people together. You want to be seen. And I want to put this kind of, as I wrap up, and sort of just, if I can leave you with anything here, if I may, as a geek, I will use a Star Wars analogy for you to understand this. We don't want to be Luke Skywalker. As the heads of our communities, as the business owners of our companies, we don't want to be the hero. We don't want to be Luke. What we want to be is Obi-Wan. We want to be the wise old guide. We want to show our customers, our community members, our subscribers how to do things. Because when everything in the world goes back to quote unquote normal, whatever that might end up looking like, or whenever somebody discovers you and they watch just one single video and can change their lives almost instantly, if not a little further down the line, when we do that as the Obi-Wan character, as the guide, and not trying to make it all about us with our sexy blue lightsaber like Luke does, it's all about helping our people in our communities. In fact, if anything, we want to be shining the light on our community members and on our customers as the heroes.
Really thinking about the personal brand that you're building and not underestimating the power of personality and even storytelling in your content. Because I know that sometimes people just want the pragmatic, just give me the information, and they're going to come get the information and leave. Well, you probably never would have got them anyways. They're using YouTube like a utility. However, really probably the only way to truly build a personal brand and connection is by adding more than just the raw information. Especially in like a world of AI, we need more humans than we ever have before. Like we need real people with their personality coming through. And so something to think about, that personal branding and weaving in personality is going to be helpful. Story being another one of those.
The reason why a lot of us don't scale is because we live inside of the comfort zone. True story. I'll make it real quick. It's a little weird story, but follow me here. My teacher brought a frog. She gave us a frog. She said, hey, we're not going to dissect the frog. We're going to boil the frog. So we gradually just boiled the frog, right? From 1 to 10, slowly. Frog was jumping around, went to sleep. And unfortunately, we boiled the frog. I raised my hand and I asked the teacher this simple question. I said, hey, what happened? Because how come the frog didn't fight for his life? And she said one good thing. She said, frogs get comfortable in the heat. And then as I was growing up, something hit me and said that the frog didn't die in its sleep. It died in its comfort zone. And I think a lot of us really have to understand that the things that are comfortable may not always be the best thing for us. And when I stepped out on my own, it was very uncomfortable. When I hired my first person full time, leaving their job to come work with me, it was uncomfortable. When I just hired another person, it was uncomfortable. When I'm cutting these checks, it was uncomfortable. But I've learned being uncomfortable has made room for me to impact more lives. Now we go back to point number 2. When we impact more lives, we're becoming influential. When we're becoming influential, now we're producing income. But sometimes we're not willing to step out. We're not willing to go to Sean and say, hey, Sean, just gut check me, rip my YouTube channel apart. Tell me what is wrong. Tell me what I need to do wrong, because it's uncomfortable to hear what we're not strong at. It's uncomfortable to have a coach, to have an accountability person in your life to gut check you and say, hey, listen, you got to do this better. You need to do this better. And I believe if you really want to scale, if you really want to grow your business, if you really want to grow your YouTube channel, then you need to get with someone that's not going to tell you, hey, that's a good job only. Hey, this is good, But here are the areas that you need to gut check yourself on. Hey, you need to hire these people. I know it's comfortable seeing your account over here, but if you want your account to go up, you need to make these hires. That's going to, spend more money, and you'll be all right. But don't allow your comfort zone to become your kill zone.
And the secret shortcut that we found is this: it's realizing that you are always most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be the world's smartest. What the world wants from you is for you to tell the story and share the strategies for how you overcame the things that you have overcome. That's what uniqueness looks like. That's what community looks like in the future. And it's actually very tactical to get you there. You start by saying, what problem have you pushed past? What obstacle have you overcome? What challenge have you conquered? What tragedy have you triumphed over? What setback have you survived? Because nobody else in the world can talk with as much specificity and credibility for how to overcome that thing as you. And nobody can teach how to overcome it in the way that you overcome it with more credibility than you. And nobody can teach about how to overcome the thing in the way you did it with the stories and the background and who looks like you. And these things all matter, right? Like, it matters how you look. Eminem was a white rapper. It mattered how he looked. He connected with a generation because people said, he looks like me. And so they paid, a new group paid attention.
Well, if you've been loving the content in today's episode, I think you're going to love 21videotips.com. We've compiled the best advice from previous speakers at our event, Grow with Video, on video marketing, personal branding, making money with video, YouTube, and all the social platforms, and highlighted it in a downloadable guide and free class. If you click the link in the show notes or just go to 21videotips.com, you can get access to that entirely for free. And if you also enjoyed today's episode, like, share, rate, review, wherever you watch or listen to the Think Media podcast. Until next time, my name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. And I can't wait to see you in a future episode.